Welcome to Wasatch Weekends. For this Sunday, August 27th edition, I'm your host, Ben Roof. On today's show, Bill Humbert, the Recruiter Guy, is going to join us to talk a little bit about overcoming loneliness and low self-esteem on the job search. And then we're going to hear from the new Freevee TV show, God Family Football, a story of a coach coming out of retirement to help the program he started. But first, a quick local announcement. The traffic in neighborhoods impacts the quality of life for residents, pedestrians, bikers, dogs, cars, and everybody throughout Park City. And that's why the Neighborhoods First Streets program was started. It was created to help provide advice and guidance to Park City government on how to really handle some of these traffic issues. The Neighborhoods First Streets Committee is currently looking for new members. If you would like to join the NFSC, go to parkcity.org for more information and how to join. Now, let's take a quick look at today's weather.
This weather report is brought to you by Sun and Ski Sports, your new mountain sports headquarters.
Welcome back to Wasatch Weekends. We're joined now by Bill Humbert, the Recruiter Guy, who's going to share with us some incredible perspectives on the job search. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Ben, thank you so much. You know, it's great to be here and talking about recruiting from a different perspective. And in my 40 years of professional talent attraction as a recruiter, my experience has been that most hiring managers have never been taught how to interview effectively, and they especially haven't been taught how to sell a candidate on a position. And over the past month, I was in South Africa. I was speaking there to a company, and I rented a car from the airport, and I drove on the other side of the road for the first time. What an experience. And I did pretty well, except for one thing. Every time I turned on the turn signal, I turned on the windshield washer, because I'm sitting on the other side of the car now, and the controls are on opposite sides. The turn signals are over here, the windshield washer is over here, and I'd turn on the windshield washers. But the good news is my windshields were clean by the time I got to the hotel.
I feel like that, having the sticks on the opposite side, would probably screw me up even more than being on the wrong side of the car.
Yeah, it's true, because when you're in traffic, it's easy. You're just following a line of cars. Doesn't matter what side of the road you're on.
Well, but I would imagine that kind of got you thinking a little bit about different perspectives on the same situation. And I know that both recruiters and potential candidates and hiring managers are all kind of approaching the job search from a different perspective.
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about those different perspectives that those different parties might have and how we can kind of all meet in the middle.
There you go. Well, so managers typically, in my experience, they want to interview a candidate, spend no more than a half hour, and find out if that candidate has the right skills, the right experience to be successful in the position. The candidates, on the other hand, are trying to determine, is this a place where I want to work? Is this a manager that I want to work for? Is this a job that I want to do? And sometimes they kind of get left out of that. The recruiter, if it's a professional recruiter as opposed to an HR recruiter, the recruiter is a sales professional. And what's really interesting is that as a recruiter, I have no control over when the sale is consummated. because it's between the manager and the candidate, and I find out afterwards what happened.
So let me ask you this then. If I'm the hiring manager or I'm the recruiter and I'm really trying to figure out if this is going to be a good fit for my candidate, what are some questions that you would suggest asking to kind of help frame the conversation in a way to help figure out if everybody's going to be a good fit together?
You know, what most candidates hear is that companies are only interested if they're a fit. They love it when a manager asks them, what are you looking for in your next position? Or what is your favorite management style? And it's a great question to ask, why are you interested in our company? And those responses can tell a manager fairly quickly if they're a good fit. You know, for instance, if the manager is a top down, stand over your shoulder, watch what you do every time you do it, and the candidate says, hey, I really like a manager who builds consensus and makes it this, helps me, allows me to make decisions with them. Well, that's a bad match, and it's better to know it up front, right? Than to wait and the person get there, hate their job for however long they stay, and then bail out.
Well, because that could be a waste of time on everybody's part, right? Both the employee and the employer. If we're just not a good fit and we end up spending, 3 months, 6 months, or even a couple of years just kind of rubbing each other the wrong way, not working well together, that can be a big challenge for everybody. So,
Absolutely. It takes 6 months to learn a job.
something that I was thinking of a little bit earlier was if I was looking for a job, something that I would expect that a lot of people who are searching for jobs do, and it's something that I've understood to be a little bit of the common practice, common knowledge, if you will, that a lot of what the interviewee is trying to do is just say the things that the potential hirer is looking to hear. And it sounds to me like that's something that you would recommend against. And trying to make sure that you're actually looking for a career that is a good fit, not just somebody that's going to pay you in the short term.
Well, that's true. You do have to structure your responses to the manager's questions in a way, because recruiting mirrors the sales process perfectly, step by step, line by line, and the career search mirrors the sales process perfectly, step by step, line by line. So it's important that when the manager asks the question, you respond truthfully with a response that demonstrates A, your interest, and B, that you have the skills to get the job done.
So going back to that question about a top-down management style versus a consensus management style, if we were in that sort of environment where I don't have a top-down management style, but I'm searching for a job where that is pretty prevalent, are there any tips that you would recommend to kind of help navigate that sort of an issue, navigate that environment, or maybe help us to change our perspective on how we respond to those questions? Or how those questions are asked?
Right. Well, it depends on the manager's style. The manager will pretty quickly during an interview, even if they don't ask the questions, they'll demonstrate their style. And people who are, if you're empathetic, and I'm very empathetic, if you're empathetic, you can tell pretty quickly if this is a good match or not. And so from a candidate perspective, it's good to come in there and be sensitive to what the manager is saying and the way they're saying it. And that will help them determine if it's a good manager, employee, direct report type style.
Well, and so it sounds a little bit to me like if I was the manager on this conversation, you're recommending a little bit more of a searching more with your questions for how that employee works and how that employee is going to fit within both the company culture and the skill set we require, but it sounds to me like you're suggesting that hiring managers don't focus quite so heavily on the skill set and a little bit more on how everybody fits together.
I think that they really do focus on the skill set. I think what they're missing is asking the questions that will help them sell the position to the candidate. And I had one candidate one time that I called with an offer, and he went, "She liked me?" I didn't even get that impression at all. And so that's a bad thing when that happens. And so managers have to when they've decided that they like the candidate, they just need to switch and say, let's talk a little bit more about you and what you like in a position. And let's check and make sure that this is a good fit for you too. Well, by doing that, you're opening your sales door and you're getting them to start talking about what they want in a position. And if the company offers that, you get excited. Wow, this is exactly the way we are here. You'd be a great fit.
Awesome. So it sounds, if I was to sum things up a little bit, I would take away from this conversation that we've been having that we're both as an employee looking for a new job and a potential employer, that we should approach that conversation more as if we're trying to sell people on the benefits of the job or sell people on the benefits of us as an employee, and how those two things can fit together really well to create that harmonious work environment. I mean, it's going to be both positive and efficient for us, for our employer, or for our employees, depending on what side of that conversation we're on. So do you have any other little tips or tricks that can help kind of bridge that gap between the needs of the employer and the needs of the employee?
I think it's just the main job for both sides, the employee and the manager, is to listen. And so often I've seen managers when they've asked me to help them learn more about interviewing and just sat in on interviews, I've seen them go through a list of questions that somebody gave them without even listening to the manager asked a question about, how did you handle conflict? And then they're looking down at the next one while the candidate said, well, it was easy. I took a gun out and I shot that person. And then they totally didn't hear it, and I'm sitting in my chair going, oh my goodness. And that part never happened, but that's, the extreme. So it's important to listen on both sides. The manager needs to listen to the responses to understand what the candidate is thinking and saying and feeling. And the candidate also has to do the same thing.
Well, and it sounds to me like that can be something that's pretty difficult to keep in our minds at the moment, especially in an interview type of situation, that can be a little bit stressful. And in a stressful environment, it can be hard to slow down enough to think about things and to really kind of process what's going on and to listen to the other people we're in conversation with. But I think we're going to have to bring you on another time, Bill, to kind of talk about how we can create a little bit more of a friendly and calm environment in that interview setting. Thank you so much for joining us. And if we need any more information, how can we contact you?
I'm really easy. I'm RecruiterGuy.com. And if anybody wants to talk to me, any companies want to talk to me, just go to RecruiterGuy.com and then click on the red Speak with Bill button and get on my calendar, and we can have a nice conversation and we'll charge you.
Well, fantastic, Bill. And then one last thing. Rumor has it you got a book?
Oh, Expect Success, The Science of the Over 50 Career Search. And I love that book. It got a 5-star review. My professors up in heaven are going, Humbert got a 5-star review? Holy cow.
Well, fantastic. Bill Humbert, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, and we will be right back with a little bit more Wasatch Weekends after a short break. Welcome back to Wasatch Weekends. A little bit earlier this week, we had the opportunity to chat with some of the members of God Family Football, a new show on Freevee about a legendary football coach coming out of retirement to help the program that he founded in Shreveport, Louisiana. Let's take a listen.
Welcome back to Good Morning Vail. Now, I am so honored and excited to have our next guest joining us because these are three pillars that I grew up with: God, family, and football. The new coming-of-age docu-series created by executive producer Aaron Benward and coach Denny Duran. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having us, Kim.
So I am thrilled with this docu-series. I watched the trailer. It looks like it's just got all of the things that really just embody good American values. Now, Aaron, tell us, what was your inspiration behind this docu-series?
The inspiration started 12 years ago, when I was 12 years old, when I met Denny. I'll be 50 next month, so that's how long this man has impacted my life. When I met him at 12, we all remember that age. Single-handedly wanted to be like him. And throughout the course of my life of being a husband and a father, an entrepreneur, I've oftentimes thought to myself, well, what would Denny do in this situation when I find myself in a situation for a choice? And man, we were talking in 2020. The program had lost and had a losing season for the first time since 1990. And we were catching up. I said, so what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to come out of retirement. I said, when? He said, tomorrow. I said, what? I said, can I tell you your story in real time? And so we began the process, and then Freevee saw it and wanted to be a part of the journey, man. And we cannot wait for the world to see Evangel Christian Academy and the culture, but also for me personally for the world to meet my hero, Denny Duran.
Well, Denny, you were just absolutely incredible as a human. You know, you're a pastor, you're an author, you're a coach. So why did you decide to come out of retirement and to be part of this series?
Well, two reasons, Kim. Number one is that for the first time at our little private school, we lost 68 upperclassmen, 30-something one year and 30-something the next. And we were reduced to playing with 8th and 9th graders, which meant we were starting over. And I found that irresistible. My first two stints as a head coach at Evangel University was a startup where I started that program in 1977. And then Evangel Christian Academy in 1989 started that program. So this was a startup. I couldn't resist it. But then the second and the most important reason was I felt like God was going to allow me just one more time to be able to have an impact on a group of young men. And young men are in desperate need of role models, and coaches are so influential in the lives of the young men that they influence and coach on a daily basis. And I just wanted to come back and do that one more time.
Well, I think it's just absolutely amazing that you've done that. So talk to me a bit more, Denny, about what this looked like for you. Now you're coaching and you have cameras watching you and following you around in your every move. Did you feel that it changed how you coached the athletes and how they responded to you as well?
You know, we just forgot that they were even there. They became a part of the family. They assimilated themselves into our culture. And I just can't say enough about Aaron Benward and the way that he handled the whole thing. Because I can tell you that if you hadn't had a guy like that, it could have been disruptive, but it never was. In fact, now Aaron has established relationships with our kids. They get calls from him. They get texts from him. He encourages them. He finds out they're going through a tough time, and he'll also insert himself into the process of encouraging those boys. And it couldn't be better. God Family Football and their entire staff and all Amazon people, everybody has added to, not taken away from our time of preparation.
Wonderful. Now, Aaron, what do you hope viewers gain from this series? I know just from watching the trailer that it's just very inspirational for me, but what are you personally hoping that they can gain from it?
The culture of Evangel is what the world needs. You know, I don't know about you, but I get so sick and tired of being so divided. And what we find and see at Evangel is the most beautiful picture that all of us can learn from. And that is also socioeconomic backgrounds, different beliefs, different ideals coming together under the beautiful, beautiful leadership of God first. And when you do that, you begin to realize that, my goodness, they can go through hard times, and yet there's ways to get through the end. There's healing, there's forgiveness, there's mercy, there's grace, there's love, there's joy. So everything about this show is counterculture to a lot of the things you see out there, because they have worked and begin to instill that consistently. It's not just the students, it's teachers, it's coaches, it's families. And coming in with a crew of people to begin to film that, they literally 100% of the time, I'm not even exaggerating, 100% of the time gave us full access to it. Because look, man, the world needs love, and love is at Evangel Christian Academy.
That's absolutely the truth. The world definitely needs some love there. Now, Denny, same question to you. What are you hoping viewers get out of this series?
Well, I hope they have an understanding that God loves everybody and that he deals with real people in real situations, even if they're really difficult situations, all the time. He never opts out when we face difficulty. And that's why Aaron and his team have done such a good job, not only of celebrating the things that are so encouraging and so positive and uplifting, but also uncovering some real challenges in the lives of these young men and their families. I think that people are going to be really, in our terminology, we would say ministered to. And what I mean by that is I believe their hearts are going to be touched and uplifted on every series of God Family Football.
Well, gentlemen, we thank you both for coming on and mentoring these young men as they are the next generation and the next future leaders of our country, and we really appreciate that. Now, Aaron, tell us, where can we go for more information, where to watch it, and when it airs?
Absolutely. So September the 1st is when we come out, and make sure you download, if you haven't yet, the Freevee app. It is free, and it's through Amazon, and right there on that app, on whatever you watch your TV on or your smartphones or your devices, you can watch God Family Football. All 6 episodes will come out because we've realized that once you see one, you want to see them all. So you can have a great night with your family. It's so encouraging. Your family it's safe for your family. All of you can sit around and get bowls of popcorn and have a great time as you experience the goodness of God through the lives of these football players and Coach Denny on September 1st on Freevee.
Well, thank you both for joining us today and talking about God Family Football.
Thank you, Kim.
It's a wonderful docuseries that you've got going on, so I cannot wait to watch it with my friends and my family. Well, stay tuned. We will be right back after this with Claire Noble of Eagle County.
This weather report is brought to you by Sun and Ski Sports, your new mountain sports headquarters.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode of Wasatch Weekends. If you've missed any of our previous editions, you can always catch us on parkcity.tv. I'm your host, Ben Roof. This is Wasatch Weekends, and we will see you tomorrow.